I'm thrilled to introduce Sol Flores, Deputy Governor of the state of Illinois, overseeing health and human services. Your summit materials provide a nice biography of Deputy Governor Flores' accomplishments as a champion for change with youth and with families who experienced homelessness in her work at La Casa Norte. I have a special appreciation for her work at La Casa Norte because of my own career. I worked in a sister agency, the Night Ministry. So I watched with high appreciation, Deputy Governor Flores, as you started in 2002 with 2 employees and worked to build up advocacy services and infrastructure so that by last year, you had an organization of 80 plus employees. And that's where you left to come into your current position, where now you're responsible for some 15,000 employees. So we're thrilled to have you here, and we appreciate the perspective you bring from building up an organization to operating a program and now seeing policy from the highest level perspective. Deputy Governor Flores, welcome. We look forward to your remarks.
So I wanted to first to say thank you to David for having me here and for the DuPage Federation for inviting me to be here today. And I wanted to thank all the panelists, Nancy, Dulce, and Susan. You all are so inspiring as leaders in your work and remind me of myself, and I see myself in you all in leading the work that you're doing with such compassion and pride for your mission. And I want to thank on the line all the folks who are part of organizations, any way that you've been on the front line of fighting this pandemic, whether you are a healthcare worker, a government employee, a nonprofit employee, a hospital worker, or a grocery store worker. All of our essential employees and frontline staff have been so important to us to ensuring that our communities are taken care of during this pandemic. So I can't thank you enough is what I'm trying to say. So thank you again and again. And I wanted to just share a couple seconds about myself and my background. David told you about my career with La Casa Norte and the work that I've done there that I'm so proud of. But just to share a little bit more about me personally and why the work that you all are doing, why it's so near and dear to me. I am Puerto Rican and first generation. My parents and grandparents came to Illinois, to Chicago in the 1950s and 60s. And while they came with U.S. citizenship status, as you can imagine, during that time, they faced many, many similar obstacles that immigrants and refugees face today. So a lot of racism and institutional discrimination when it came to them searching for housing, employment, and school. And one of the things that I'm so proud of is that my family was really able to benefit from public services as well. And so there were times when we grew up very, very poor, and assistance from nonprofits, from community-based organizations, from churches helped our family survive so that I never had to go to sleep hungry, and my family had what they needed to be strong. And then when I became an adult in my early 20s, my mother married a man from Ecuador. And so then we had a mixed immigrant status family. And I have a stepsister who came to the US when she was 15 years old. And in having her be here and be integrated both into US culture, as well as what it meant to now be an Ecuadorian living in Humboldt Park, I was there with her the day that she raised her hand and took her oath and became naturalized as a citizen. And it was so powerful and moving to me to see not just on her face, but she was in a class of other 19-year-olds who were also taking an oath that day, and to see the promise of their futures in front of them. And so that's the same promise that we know that our DACA recipients have. And so it's with a sigh of relief that we welcome the recent court decision about DACA, and that we continue to hold the line and press for federal reform, not just for our DACA recipients, but expansive immigration reform for all of our immigrants, undocumented, and refugees who are in this country seeking shelter and also offering their talents and their life's work to making this a better country. So I just wanted to share a little bit more about myself so that we feel related. In thinking about remarks for today, I talked to Secretary Ho earlier, and she shared with me some of the inspirational words that she shared with you all. And I didn't get to hear her, and I didn't get to hear Lauren. I know that you all are very much grounded in the work that Illinois is doing, that our nonprofit sector is doing. And I'm going to say this at least twice, and for the first time right now, in my role as deputy governor in the state of Illinois, I'm clear that the state cannot do this work alone. We need you as partners to succeed. You are trusted messengers in your communities. You understand your communities, and you have the local solutions to overcome barriers and challenges. And the state and government should be here as your partner to provide resources and access and have you all inform the policy decisions that we're making on your behalf every single day. So that's the first time I'm going to thank you, and I'll do it again before we leave. You know, we said this a moment ago, and we've been hearing it on the panelists. The panelists said it very eloquently, but COVID-19 really brought to light all of the systemic racism and discrimination that we know is alive and well in this country when it comes to elements like healthcare access, housing, education, and COVID, the pandemic, unfortunately, just really shined a light on that. And so we really see the increased risks that immigrants have had to undergo during this pandemic, as they're overrepresented in the service industry. So both as essential workers who are out there risking their lives and their families every single day, and then of course as other service industry workers that were then laid off with nowhere to work as much of the hospitality and restaurant industry shut down. We also know that there were many immigrants who did not qualify for some of the public benefits that were made available by the federal government that other citizens and residents did get to benefit from. And so we know that our immigrant community continues to be vulnerable during this time, and we continue to look for opportunities to support and uplift and make sure that no one is left behind. One of the things that we're very proud of, that I think Grace touched on this briefly, is during the recent looting and civil unrest, the governor said to us, gave us a mandate as an administration and said, look, we are already going to be spending our $2 billion in CARES money and spending it in the way that the General Assembly appropriated it and the way that the governor assigned it into law. But what else can we do? What else can we do in terms of immediate responses to poverty as well? And as we know, and this isn't news to anyone, the same communities that were impacted by COVID-19 are the same communities disproportionately that have been impacted by the looting, and are the same communities that have experienced systemic poverty for a long time. And so this is just the beginning. There is so much more work to be done, but we're proud that just a couple of weeks ago, the governor did announce $900 million in COVID-19 immediate relief. And this is immediate relief that is coming to Illinois right now, exactly as I speak. So not 3 months from now, not 6 months from now, but right now, monies are going out the door in June, in July, and in August for immediate relief. The bulk of those dollars, $600 million, are dedicated to childcare and childcare payments, as well as to businesses, and to all realms of small businesses. And so I will make available to David to share with you all, if you don't already have it, access to this information on the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. They're called BIG grants. And so it's an opportunity for small businesses to apply and immediately have access to capital to be able to do what they need to do. And this is different from any other federal monies or grants that folks may have applied for. This is specific as an Illinois response. Another tranche of that $900 million is $300 million directly that will be provided in rental and mortgage assistance. And we expect to be able to serve up to 45,000 households, 30,000 renters, and up to 15,000 homeowners. This program is going to be administered by the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and the portals where folks will be able to apply electronically will become open in April. For those individuals who don't have access to internet, we've heard a lot about that, or perhaps don't have the digital literacy skills necessary to complete an application, there will be opportunities in which community-based organizations can help walk them through that process. And IDA recently released an RFP for requests, and we got many different responses from around the state from community-based organizations that were willing to raise their hand and say, we will help get the word out, do outreach about this rental assistance, as well as help applicants through the process. And so we feel very excited to be able to get this money out and get it into the hands of renters and homeowners so that they can pay arrearages as well as ensure future rent payments or mortgage payments at least through the end of the year. One small tranche of money that came, and I call it small because in government we deal in billions, but it's actually quite a lot of money. It's quite a lot of taxpayer money, and it is a $5 million fund dedicated to something that we're calling Heal Illinois. And so I heard some of the panelists speak about this earlier, and it's in the same vein of understanding how can community come together to begin to engage and or continue conversations around anti-racism, social justice, and healing in our communities. And so we intend with this $5 million to host 1,000 conversations across the state through a small grants fund. And many different types of organizations, no matter your size, will be able to access a small grant with not a lot of barriers to getting the money so that you can utilize that to put on whatever type of activity or event that you need to do to facilitate a conversation with your community. And then we'll invite those 1,000 conversations to share them back with the state of Illinois into a virtual repository where we will be able to hear directly from you about what was said, what were the themes, what are the narratives in your community, what are the policy measures that you want this administration to undertake and take on for your community. Grace Ho, our secretary at DHS, is helping to lead this work, and we're watching it very carefully with all of my support and passion and energy behind it in the governor's office. And I look forward that folks on this call and that DuPage will apply for these grants and be a part of some of these conversations over the summertime period. One of the requests that we have of you, you as frontline staff, as nonprofit professionals, and as individuals, whether you're volunteers or board members participating in immigrant serving agencies, is an ask around how we can help fight the pandemic together. And so I know that you have heard for many, many days Dr. Garcia and Governor J.B. Pritzker talk about what it means to bend the curve and the shared sacrifice that we all made together over these last 14 weeks when we had to stay at home, the shared economic sacrifice with so many households losing access to income, the shared sacrifice of people not being able to be with loved ones, with elderly ones, not being able to attend funerals or births, all the holidays that we've now had. So that was a collective shared sacrifice. And together, we did bend the curve. And so now as we're entering we're not entering, we're actually in today in phase 4. I beg of you, please, please, please know that the virus is alive and well. And if we want to ride the benefits of our sacrifice, then it is incumbent upon each of us to manage our individual behaviors. And all of you on this line, I know, are influencers in your families, your leaders in your communities, and you can send the basic messages, right? Dr. Ezike did this so well in English and in Spanish, and had we given her the time, she would have also done it in French, but we didn't have enough time during that press conference. But she talked about the 3 W's. And so I'll remind you what those are today: wearing a mask, washing your hands, and watching your distance. We know that there is a lot of myth and misconception out there about the virus. It impacts everyone, all races, all genders, all ages, all abilities. And so I beg of you, please, please, please encourage your families, your neighbors, your communities to please take care of themselves. And that's how our communities can actually begin to prosper. And then 2 very specific things I would ask of you are to encourage your communities and the people that you serve and work and live with to go get tested for COVID-19. The state of Illinois currently runs 11 community-based testing sites, and there are over 250 other COVID-19 testing sites at clinics, hospitals, physician centers across the state. At our community-based testing sites, we do not ask if you don't have insurance. We don't ask for that. We don't ask for your citizenship status. If you do have insurance, we will take it so that we can process that to the federal government, but there is no cost to any individual, whether you're an immigrant, insured, uninsured, or undocumented, to access COVID-19 testing and treatment today in Illinois. So I encourage you, as you know, folks who either are exhibiting symptoms or have been exposed or who are an essential worker or who just don't feel safe because of something that's happened to them, to access one of the community-based testing sites. A week ago, we announced the expansion of our testing through mobile pop-up testing that we're now also making available in addition to our community-based testing sites. And so we're using positivity and infection rates by zip codes to identify where some of those mobile sites should be. And so today, we know we have mobile sites in Cicero, pop-up sites in Cicero, on the northwest side, on the southeast side, in central, and in southern Illinois. Those sites, mobile sites, are available for your viewing on the IDPH website and on coronavirus.illinois.gov. And I can also make those available to David to share post this. And then the second ask I have for all of you today is about contact tracing. So we know that within the immigrant community and within some of our undocumented community, there is a heightened sense of mistrust. And what I want to share today is that one of the ways that we'll be able to fight the virus is through testing and through contact tracing. And Illinois, the state of Illinois, will not share any data gathered from individuals about tracing with any federal entities. We will not share databases. We will not share information. The information is only exclusively utilized to trace your contacts, to tell them that they too have been exposed, and to share with them about testing and about other resources that they may need in order to successfully self-isolate at home. So we will be very shortly rolling out more contact tracing efforts in the state of Illinois. We have first started with our local health departments, and shortly we'll be offering a NOFO or a grant opportunity to community-based organizations to also assist in those measures. We will have a multi-language marketing and communications campaign to share with Illinoisans about what contact tracing is and about how, if you're contacted, why it's so important that you pick up the phone, that you share your information, because what you're really doing is protecting your family, your community, your colleagues. You're also protecting all of our future prosperity. So testing and tracing is what my asks of you today. And then I'll just end on 2 quick comments. I heard Nancy and some other folks talk about this. Prior to the pandemic, one of my most immediate jobs for this summer was overseeing our Census 2020 efforts. And of course, all of that has changed, just like the rest of our world has changed. As you all know, the census enumeration has now been extended through October 31st. And in addition to the $29 million that the state of Illinois invested in fiscal year 20, we've recently invested an additional $14 million to organizations. So the state of Illinois has directly funded what we call our regional intermediary organizations, and they in turn have funded almost 400 sub-grantees, nonprofits, faith-based organizations across the state. And we have made sure that there are organizations that represent the immigrant community, organizations that are geographically dispersed, organizations that have various different language capacity, that have ability capacity, that understand gender orientation, that understand different cultural competence levels. And so my ask today is to all of us can be census ambassadors. You've heard this a million times. I'm going to tell you 1,000,001 time why the census is so important. First and foremost, our federal allocations. What is due Illinois? And we know now more than ever, we need every single dollar to come back to Illinois. These dollars are specifically dedicated to infrastructure, as well as to elements like education, social services, and our ability to operate the programs that we need, that we know our communities need in order to be successful. Secondarily, Census 2020 and our count will be important for our representation. Again, everyone has heard that because of Illinois' recent loss in population, we are also at risk for losing 1 and potentially 2 congressional seats. We started this conversation with saying the relief that we had at the DACA court decision. We understand how important it is to make sure that we have champions in our Congress representing Illinois, representing immigration reform, and representing what we know, again, our immigrant community needs in order to survive and thrive. So I encourage you all, please, please, please ask everyone to fill out the census. It does not matter about your status. It just matters, are you here in Illinois? Yes, you deserve to be counted. And I'll end with what has inspired me. And so it's simply all of you to hear about how you have continued your missions, to hear about all the technology that you had to quickly learn and ramp up, and then share that and educate that with the people that you serve. To hear that your missions are alive and well. And yes, some of you are under-resourced today, and we're going to work on that together in partnership. But your missions carry on. Your communities are being served. And so that is what's inspiring to me. Unlike you, I'm no longer today on the front lines, but I was for over 17 years. And so I know what it's like to look a young person in the eye, or a mom who's just trying to do the best possible thing she can do as a parent for her kids, to understand when someone's in crisis, and the ability that you can provide them with food, with shelter, or with someone who can listen in an open and non-judgmental manner. So you inspire me. Thank you. And I'll end again with thank you for your partnership. We can't do it without you. We need you now more than ever to continue to fight this pandemic and continue to make sure that our communities and Illinois is strong, thriving, and surviving. Thank you for having me here today. David, I'll turn it back to you.